Hey, it's Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader, and welcome to the Black Belt Leadership Podcast, where each week I'm giving you tips, tools, insights, and resources to help you become a better version of who you are and what you do as you discover, develop, and deploy your own Black Belt leader within. Hey, this week I want to talk about the 6 C's of winning, and I want to start with a recent trip that I made to Las Vegas. I had a great invitation to go spend a weekend with some good friends of mine, Master CD and Master Michelle Young. They run Engage Lifestyle Martial Arts in Henderson, Nevada, just outside of Las Vegas. They were hosting an event and invited several martial arts school owners and instructors to come in and see what they're doing in their school. Now, I love the school, and if you're in the Las Vegas area, I encourage you to check them out. They are an amazing family-centered martial arts program, and they're focused on fitness, on self-defense, on personal growth, and leadership development. Now, on Friday night, Master Young hosted a mastermind event. And he invited, again, as I said, a cohort of highly ranked martial arts school owners and instructors to gather around the table and to discuss what was going on in the martial arts industry. Now, following that, we had an amazing pizza and wings party for the engaged staff and an opportunity to spend some time with the guest instructors. Saturday morning was a black belt and rank advancement testing. So all of us that were visiting for the weekend got the opportunity to sit in on the testing panel to see what they're doing as they're expanding and revamping the way they're teaching martial arts and developing the students, not just in their ability to punch and kick and to perform self-defense, but in their life skills and personal development as well. Heard some amazing and incredible stories as individuals shared speeches, really talking about what they're learning in the martial arts program and how it's helping them in life. Now, after that was over, we had a break for the afternoon and then came back that evening to Master Young and his wife's home, where we had a very special dinner and award ceremony where every single one of us that were in the room got to recognize someone who tested that day and to speak into their lives and encourage them for something that we saw that made them stand out in that testing opportunity. We then returned back to our accommodations, and the very next day we got up, and as a thank you for showing up, CD and his wife took some of us to attend a Golden Knights NHL hockey game in Las Vegas. Now, we got to watch the Florida Panthers, and this was kind of a rivalry of sorts. And if you've never attended a Golden Knights game in Las Vegas, here's what I can tell you. It is a spectacle. Now, not only do you get to watch grown men fight with sticks, and hey, what martial artist wouldn't love that? You get to enjoy a Las Vegas show all at the same time. Now, my accommodations for the weekend were at the Westin Lake Las Vegas. Now, if you've never been there, it is a beautiful hotel and resort that literally sits on the shoreline of Lake Las Vegas. And that was the slow season because it's January, so the hotel was sparsely occupied. So it was a quiet, restful weekend for me after a long, long week of travel, literally coast to coast. Now, Saturday morning, I woke up to prepare for my day, and as I opened the window to look out over this pristine view of the lake, I was greeted with an incredible sunrise. And as I watched the sun rise and just took a moment to just enjoy watching nature display itself with God's handiwork, my eyes caught a group of preteens rowing a boat across these pristine waters early in the morning on Lake Las Vegas. And then a second boat appeared, and then a third, and then another. And I learned a little bit later that this was part of a kids' camp that was taking place that weekend in that same area that I was staying. Now, as I watched, these kids were digging their oars in the water and they were working tirelessly as a team. Their goal was to get their boat across the lake and back as quickly as they could. Now, after several minutes of hard rowing, you saw the team pause. They pulled their oars in the water and they took a rest from their incredibly hard efforts as they'd been rowing very, very hard. Now, one of the things that I found out as I dug a little deeper into this kids' camp and what was going on there was that they were there doing a lot of team building exercises with preteens and the teens that were part of this event. It was a personal growth camp. So everybody that was there was being challenged to stretch themselves personally and professionally and to learn how to contribute their very best efforts to being part of a team. So I watched them not only Saturday, but again early on Sunday morning as they're back in the water trying to improve their times from the previous day. Now, here's what I can tell you. Watching a group of preteens and teens, nobody on the boat and not a single boat wanted to be the last boat to get back to the docks. Everybody wanted the bragging rights that are associated with being the winner. And I got to ask the question, don't we all? Who doesn't want, if given the opportunity, to have more wins rather than less? Well, I later learned from one of the camp directors that one of the lessons that these campers were learning early on was the importance of rowing as a cohesive unit. If you've never rowed as a team, here's what I can tell you, and here's what I learned and observed as I watched these young teens and preteens go up and down the lake. All the oars needed to cut the water at the same time to maximize the effort and to keep the boat moving in a straight line. Now, the rowers are staggered with half the oars on the starboard side of the boat and half the oars on the port side. So that's left and right, if you don't know the difference. Starboard is right, port is left. So as they call us landlubbers, if you don't know, you just learned something new from the podcast. Well, why do they do this? Well, it's essential that you have half the energy striking the water on one side of the boat and the other half of the energy striking on the other side of the boat to keep it moving in a straight line. If all the oars were striking on one side of the boat, all that energy would move the boat forward, but it would turn it in a circle. So as I watched these young campers working diligently to hone their craft and to continue to improve their chances of winning and to beat their time from the day before, I grabbed a pen and an idea notebook I always carry with me, and I started writing down some leadership lessons that I was learning that these young lives were exhibiting, and they were teaching me as I observed their efforts from my hotel room. Here's what I learned. This team, these kids, these teenagers and preteens were focused on winning, but winning was only possible for them if they kept improving. So remember, and I've talked about this often in my podcast, it's through continual improvement, through daily personal growth, that we become better at who we are and better at what we do. When we do that every single day, it improves our odds of winning. As I say in my book, Black Belt Secrets of Success, successful people do daily what unsuccessful people do sometimes or not at all. These young teens and preteens were willing every day to get in the boat, put their oar in the water, and start rowing. So here's what I observed as I watched these campers straining to get their boats across the lake and back, beating their time from the day before. They exhibited the 6 C's of winning. Now, if you've never heard the 6 C's of winning, I'm about to share them with you, and they are a black belt secrets of success principle that you can operate and implement into your life if you want to experience more wins. Now, these same very 6 C's I'm going to share with you apply to winning with any team or any organization. So if you're leading a team or you're just a part of a team, you need to know how to implement and live out these 6 essential C's so your team can experience more wins. Now, the first C in the 6 C's is collaboration. So by definition, what is collaboration? It's the action of working with someone or a group of people to either produce or to create something. So what did we see in the example that I shared at the start of today's podcast? We saw young campers in a boat trying to produce a win by getting their boat up the lake and back again in a faster time than their competitors, and also to beat their time from their previous journey across the lake and back. So this required that they work together as a team to produce a desired outcome. They had to learn how to use the tools and the resources they had, the boat and the oars, to efficiently and effectively generate the greatest outcome they could from the effort applied. Every stroke of the oar in the water was effort. And the more cohesively they did that as a team, the more they worked together to make that happen in a collaborative effort, the faster they moved across the water. So by working together as a team, what did they ultimately do? They improved their productivity, they improved their output, and they ultimately improved their outcome. These campers realized, whether they knew it or not, an important element of teamwork. And that lesson is this: all of us are better than any one of us. Now, the second C of winning is commitment. Now, commitment is the state or the quality of being dedicated to a cause or to an activity. Every single camper on the boat had committed to getting that boat across the lake and back as quickly as possible. Now, to make that happen, every single camper that was in a position in the rowboat had to put forth their very best personal effort. If you've got 8 individuals in the boat, you can't rely on one person to carry the load or even do the bulk of the work if you want the team to succeed. Every single team member has to work together to get the boat from one side of the lake to the other and then back again. You don't think about it. The oars had to dig into the water at the same time with the same effort in a synchronous effort to keep the boat moving in a straight line. Too much energy on one side and not enough on the other is going to cause the boat to move back and forth. Everybody on the team had to be committed to the cause, and they had to continue to improve and maintain the quality of each stroke of the oar so they could continue to accelerate that boat towards the finish line. Now, each camper, each rower in that boat realized that the rest of the teammates on the boat were counting on him or her to help get them across the lake and back in a faster time than the time before. That's the second C of winning. Now, the third C of winning is coordination. Now, to coordinate means to bring different elements into a relationship that will assure efficiency or harmony. That's the dictionary definition. So what did I see as I observed these young lives in these boats on the lake rowing early in the morning? I saw a coordination of effort as each team rowed. One oar on the right, the next on the left, all stroking the water in unison. And to keep them in sync, in the back of the boat, there was a coxswain. That's the individual that is the leader of the team who's giving instructions. He's counting the cadence and he's keeping the team coordinated in their rowing efforts so they're rowing as a team, not as individuals. Now, why is that important? Because if the oars aren't striking the water in a coordinated effort, the boat is going to zig and it's going to zag. It's not going to go in a straight line. And you and I both know the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And if they want to beat their time from the day before, or the hour before, or the morning or evening before, they got to keep the boat going as straight as possible. Now, if one side of the boat is pulling harder than the other side of the boat's going to drift left or right. Again, not going in a straight line. So it requires the team, every single member of the team, to engage in a coordinated effort. Every single person giving his or her best to keep that boat moving forward, maintaining momentum, and pushing it all the way to the finish. Now, the fourth C of winning is communication. So communication is the act of imparting or exchanging news or information. Now, as I said, it's the coxswain's role, that individual in the back of the boat serving as the leader, to give very clear and very concise instructions so the team members know exactly what to do and when to do it. Without clear communication, this team in the boat would be left to figure out how to do it for themselves, how to figure out what to do and when to do it, and at best, that's going to lead to a disjointed effort, if not watching this boat wander in a circle. Without clear communication, making sure everybody in the boat knows their role and their responsibility, the boat may find itself rowing in a circle or struggling to move forward in a straight line. Now, one team in particular I observed really understood the role of communication as well as the importance of feedback. Each time the coxswain would yell "stroke," the team members would respond with a loud grunt in unison as their oars struck the water. You'd hear "stroke, stroke, each time driving those oars into the water, pulling with all their might to keep that boat moving forward. What was happening? Each team member was acknowledging that they heard the command, but they were also using a verbal cue so that as a group, they could maintain a synchronous stroke rhythm. So what's our lesson there? Leaders must be clear and concise with the communication to their team, and they need to be listening for the feedback to make sure their instructions have been understood. Now, the fifth C of winning is consistency. Being consistent is what? Doing the same thing the same way over and over again. Now, in rowing, you've got to understand that that's a requirement if you're going to win the race. The rowing exercise that these campers were engaging in not only required they take the boat from one side of the lake to the other, they had to return to their point of origin and beat the time they did before. This required that every single camper, every single person with an oar in their hand had to start well. They had to maintain or improve their speed, not only on the way out, but on the way back. If they push too hard up front, they may burn out before they've got the opportunity to get back. If they start off too slow, then maybe even as much effort as they give, they don't match their time from what happened before. So it's starting well, maintaining momentum, and ending well. That again requires a cooperative effort from the team. Now, at times, as they're working in this endeavor, the wind was their ally. It helped propel them and push the boat forward. But as they turned around and came the other direction, the wind became an enemy as it pushed back against every single stroke of the oar, forcing those rowing the boat to row even harder. So consistency demanded that the campers put forth the same effort and sometimes more effort over time than when they started to finish and beat the time that they had set in their previous attempt. So what did it do? It demanded something more of every single camper in the boat. Every single person rowing had to dig deep. They had to continue to push themselves. They had to get into that uncomfortable place where growth happens, and they discovered that they were capable of one more stroke of the oar than maybe they believed they could do. They knew even as tired as they were and as spent as they were from the effort they had put forth, one more stroke of the oar, one more stroke of the oar, that was going to be required again and again to get them not just across the lake, but back again. Now, for the campers in the boat, as I watched this was the outcome of being personally committed and coordinating with their fellow campers as they followed the communication from the coxswain. And as I observed this, my mind went to one of my favorite authors, Og Mandino, and one of his most famous quotes, "I will persist until I succeed." I witnessed that Saturday and that Sunday on the lake. Understand this, consistency is what separates winning teams from losing teams. Now, the last C of winning is celebration. So to celebrate means to acknowledge an accomplishment or an event. Now, that could be a birthday, it could be an anniversary, it could be an achievement, or in the case of these campers, it was getting their boat across the lake and back again, beating their time, but hopefully beating everybody else's time in the process. And as I watched these teams reach the conclusion of their race across the lake, what did I witness? Hands and oars raised in victory. I heard these teams give out a shout of celebration. The campers in the boats were high-fiving each other, smiles beaming across their face as they reflected on the effort they had just put forth, individually and corporately as a team, and what they as a group had accomplished together. Now, yes, they were tired. They were very tired. Yes, they were breathing hard. Yes, they were physically and probably mentally and emotionally spent, but I don't think a single one of those rowers in the boat would have traded that moment, that special feeling of accomplishment, for anything in the world. Because it was in that moment those young lives realized something about themselves. They were capable of greatness. They had stretched themselves. They had got outside their comfort zone, and they had discovered that their potential was greater than they believed. You know, Tony Robbins says it well, what gets rewarded gets repeated. And when we celebrate the wins, guess what? We get more of them. And that's true in every area of our lives. So let's recap what we've learned today from this group of teens and preteens rowing a boat across the lake. The 6 C's of winning. Collaborate. We can't do it alone. Commitment. We can't get there without every single person doing his or her part to contribute to the success of the team. Coordination. Everybody, every single person on the team must work together, giving their best effort as a cohesive unit. Communication. The leaders must give clear and concise instructions and must listen to the feedback of the team. Consistency. To finish well, we've got to start well and we've got to maintain momentum all along the way. And the last C, celebration. We enjoy what we accomplished and we get ready to do it again. So here's my question. Are you ready to take your seat, grab an oar, and start digging in the water? Well, here's what I can tell you. Practice the 6 C's of winning in your team, in your organization, and you're going to experience more wins. I'm Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.